Hello accounts people, let's take some time to have a look at some practice material. This is the one provided by Osborne. Osborne always provide good practice papers. If I did one of the AAT ones, it'll give too much away. You need to have a proper go at the AAT one yourselves. General information, the same as the AAT one. It's 8 tasks, used to be more than that. Problem task used to be 8, it's now task 6. Every task is independent. Just make sure obviously points and dates and commas and read everything carefully. Normal mathematical rounding. Quite a lot of the answers are to whole pounds, but there are some pence, but they're actually I think right at the end. So onwards with task 1. Task 1, just to make you think, just to make sure you read carefully, it's a true or false. So the receivables ledger control account, so the control account is the total amount, the receivables ledger is the individuals, so actually false. Receivables ledger identify individual, no, it's the whole amount. Total column from sales returns, back to basics, sales returns are debits, credit the control account, that's okay. Then we have a payables account question. So payables or purchases ledger control account as it used to be known, or creditors control account as it still is on Sage or some versions of Sage. Balance of credit suppliers, you owe money to your suppliers. We'll put that amount in there. If I do the equals it saves times. It doesn't matter which way around we work it out, it isn't actually in the same order. Bank payments, if you're paying a supplier, it will be credit the bank, debit as a control account. Purchases table, purchases are debit, so it's credit the control account. And purchase returns are credit, debit the control account as the other entry. Then discounts received are credits, so we debit the control account. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, they're all there. I'm on a cheat, I'm on a computer, why shouldn't I? Spreadsheets were invented for accountants. Add up the two sides, or add up the big side, that plus that, take off the smaller side. Just making sure be careful. I can't do the equals now because otherwise I would get a circular error. There we are, 3, 4, 6, 7, that adds up to that. So I have typed the right number in. Very worried about it. 34,400. Notice it's a carried down, it's the 30th of June. This one then, a VAT control account. Okay, so what we've got to do, grab a bit of paper. There isn't any room to do this, whereas this one we had the debits and credits column. We haven't now, so we might as well get a bit of paper. I'm just going to do it on screen. Debit, credit. In fact, the balance, actually I haven't given myself room to put the balance in, but that's no problem. VAT on purchases we'll do, and then we'll put that 8054 on there. Sales are credits. So remember the other way round, whereas the payables was the other entry, this is the same way round as a transaction. So discounts allowed are debits, discounts received are credits. And payment to HMRC, it's actually, well, it would normally be that amount, but it isn't quite for some reason, this reason, who knows. Credit the bank because it's a payment, debit the control account. So again, we've got the same problem, nothing sales or purchase returns during June. The balance brought down, again, we're on a spreadsheet. I'll add up the big side, take off the smaller side. And we've got 3283. That of course is a carried down, it's asking for the brought down balance, so that will be on the credit side, still owe money to HMRC, and that's task 1 done. Onwards with task 2 then, so a bit more wordy. One of the following would cause a difference between the payables control account and the payables ledger. A supplier has missed off the payment run. Well, no, that won't make any difference because it's just showing the fact that we've forgotten to pay them. It'd be the same on the control account and as the individual suppliers' accounts. But the purchases day book, yeah, the total column, the purchases day book is what's transferred into the control account, and it's the totals column. So that is the answer, basically. Just to double check, the net column of the purchases day book is transferred to the purchases, so it's not that one, it will just be that one. And then irrecoverable debt's nothing to do with the payables, unless you're in real trouble. It's in the receivables, not sure why that bit's there. Part B then, just a quick balance again, except all we've actually got to do here is notice that one of our suppliers, because it's payables, owes us some money. In other words, we paid them and then sent some goods back. Credits and debits, so we've just got to notice. It's not even asking actually whether it's a debit or a credit. But minus the 300. We are 1172. I'm just going to quickly call up the answers. Did get that one right, didn't I? 1172. Yep. And the difference is payables ledger is a credit balance. So on the payables control account it says 12,342. What's the difference? $600. And so now, sometimes this is linked, sometimes it isn't. Obviously 300, the wrong side. If that was meant to be credit, that would explain 600 difference. Just obviously try and get it in your head, if it related to the question, that it's the control account that is greater than the purchase ledger. But actually these two false questions don't seem to be linked with this. They're individual. But let's work out what's happening anyway. So an invoice for £300, the wrong side of the individual supplier account. So it should be including in the account, it should be increasing the supplier's account. So actually the purchase ledger, because we put it on the wrong side, would be less. Then it should be resulting in 600. Well, that's fine. Actually, it's actually not saying whether it's more or less, but actually anything, if it's the wrong side, that's okay. The purchase ledger is less. These questions are awfully wordy. Read through a bit of paper, write down some notes. Discounts allowed 57. Deducted from an individual customer account, that's fine, that's what you're meant to be doing, but not entered into the receivables account. So the receivables control account will be higher, that's true, because it hasn't had the £57 deducted from it. Comment. Debit balance on the VAT, an error? No. I'll say straight away, that's no. That's an easy one. You can be it. We can be owed by HMRC. Every business sooner or later will have a refund from HMRC. Major building work, renew a fleet of vans, suddenly you've got so much VAT to claim back that it's more than you've charged your customers. I actually have, having said that, how often, well actually I remember one company I worked for 12 years and one VAT quarter we got some money back because there was some building work. Put it into the context. Purchase returns anyway. 65 in the payables control account. So the payables ledger control account is okay. It's been reduced by the 65. But the individual account it wasn't in, which would make the individual account, because it's a return, higher. Wrong way round. So just think logically what's happening. Sales return of £75 duplicated in the individual customer's account. That would make the individual customers lower than it should be. And we're assuming that the other one's okay. So the individual customers lower. The question says the balance on the control account higher. That's the right way around. And then one last one, perhaps we can go back to some proper numbers. The total column of the discount received daybook posted to the wrong side of the payables. Now if something's posted the wrong side, the error won't be 680, it will be 1360. And I made a typo, I put an extra 2 in under. Twice 680, so it won't cause imbalance of 6, that one will be false. Like a dry balance question really. 2 done, quarter of the way. Payment methods, okay, we can have a bit of a discussion on these. So payment of expenses by a travelling sales rep, that one should be a credit card. You don't want to give your travelling sales rep a debit card because that links it into the company's bank account. They can see how much is in the company's bank account, and also there's no limit on it and no individual recording, so you don't know who spent it or on what. Employee payroll, in case you've never seen it on a pay slip, is always BACS, Bank Automated Credit System. And then these two that do cause problems still, variable has to be a direct debit, both methods of payment, and if it's a fixed you can use a standing order. You can actually have a direct debit for a fixed amount, but the difference of course also, direct debits are requested by the recipient, you send the money on a standing order. You control it, they control it, with your permission. Paper based. Now, I'm not sure if anybody ever uses these anymore. Last few cars I bought, I haven't used these, but as it's the only paper-based one, it's got to be a bank draft, very old-fashioned, guaranteed money, so when you get the vehicle, the recipient knows it's going to clear, which is what's a bank draft, as opposed to drawn on your account with a cheque. Most people now still use debit cards or even faster payment systems. Electronic payment for £1 million, high amount, property, controlled by solicitors, chaps. Not too much problem, used to be task 1. And then a description. Now I must admit, these are an oddball question, they're not a particular theme, they just have a description and an option. So payments sent to a supplier at the end of the month not yet appeared, they are unpresented cheques. They don't have to be cheques, it says payments. It could actually be a debit card payment. I think somebody's pinched an old question and kind of not thought it through. But we know what they mean. Cash and cheques received by the business deposited in the bank of every day. Those will show as a counter credit from this list of options. And a fee charge for the business account. Business accounts aren't normally free. Bank charges, and then a variable amount directly out of the bank every month for telephone charges. We've already had a similar question. Direct debit. Very straightforward. But not quite working out what the thread is there. Payment sent to suppliers at the end of the month have not yet appeared on the bank statement, so we are identifying whether the adjustments are needed in the cash book. It's in the cash book. We paid it. So that's actually in the bank reconciliation statement. Notice it doesn't say update the cash book, which is what you do, because that will give the game away. Cumulative didn't deduct credit note from the remittance. That means I just forgot to take it off. Take it off next time. But that's nothing to do with the bank statement will be fine. So would their cash book. That's the either. Not sure if these questions have to be one of each. This one is though. Bank charges appear in the bank statement. That's the updating process. That's when we update our cash book. Because we often only see the bank charges when we actually see our bank statement. Right, that's bank recs. So this used to be a strange task because it was met well but not exceeded very well. So, and it used to be before the other bank check, bank reconciliation question. But let's treat it. So in the exam you'd have little arrows and click on them and it highlights everything. It's best to do that because it's very visual and visually it really helps. We've actually got an opening balance difference here. So we're going to have to work out what that one is after we've matched everything else. So we can't match the 267, that's the first item, but we can match the 2768. And we can match the 2529 and the 1596 we can't match, and the 2015 we can. Now on the other side we could do this row by row or we could do it side by side. The paid out side, the credit side of our cash book, we've got £474, that's a nice easy amount to spot. And we have, oops, didn't colour right. Barbie's 1763 hasn't gone through. She's got plenty of money, Barbie has, she doesn't need it. Barros though obviously needed to put the bank money in the bank, 4632, that's cleared through. And then we've just got a balance. Bank charges you would expect to update the cash book, and then we've got this 1476. So we've got to work out what the opening balance difference is. In this case it's fairly straightforward. It could be one or two items. Sometimes it's an old check number. So if one of the if that check was a check, you know, sort of 550 or something like that, that would be an obvious culprit. But all I'm actually going to do is just sit on the calculator and take off the 267, and actually comes to 1476. So this check is the culprit. We've obviously put it into our cash book in July, and it took a few weeks for the recipient to pay it, although I wouldn't oh yeah, actually it's 57, so it is a much older check. I hadn't noticed that actually before. So we know actually we're quite happy, we can match that and our opening balance, and we can match the 1476. I hadn't actually noticed it was 1557. Oh, don't know why. Leaving us a couple of items in our bank statement. Those are what we're going to update our cash book by, and then there's items that will be in the reconciliation statement in our cash book. So slightly different format to the older paper, so you will see lots of questions where it isn't quite the same way around. This is our cash book. In the older style papers you actually physically dropped it into the cash book and updated the cash book total. They're just asking for a mini statement now. Just a different version on a different syllabus. Obviously still have lots of the old style questions about. So the adjustment in our cash book are these two items. It's a BACS credit, so it's an electronic payment to us. We've probably got an email, but maybe somebody else has got the email, not the bookkeeper. And then the bank charges, it was only the 30th, so nobody's noticed yet to add it in. So let's put these two items in. Minsky and the bank charges, And then the closing balance brought down, 2450 debit of course because it's a brought down. And then the Minsky is in, it's coming into our bank account, the 1596. And the bank charges are going out. So we should have a balance. I'm not sure whether we meant to put it on the opposite. It's got to be the debit side, we've got more money in. $3,971. Now that obviously doesn't match up with this because of these two items that haven't cleared through our bank. Barbie hasn't got round to banking her money, and we haven't recorded, and this one is simply a timing difference. It just was the 30th of August, it hasn't gone through yet. Bank holiday week, isn't it, or end of August. So our bank statement says 3994, C obviously credit in the bank is our debit, it's a positive. Add, what we're going to add, we are going to add the money as if, because we know it's there, it's like you think in your bank to check it's in my money, I can now spend it. So it is, what is it, was it's Bacon Co, isn't it? Just 1740. Less Barbie, and Barbie is it was 1763. It's not asking you to put minuses in though here. So our adjusted balance, oops, hopefully, there we are, 3971. So we've reconciled our bank, we've proven a lot of our transactions are correct and justified them. So halfway through, slightly over halfway through I think time wise. Journals, just debits and credits. We've got a modern situation, you've done a little bit of bookkeeping, and now you've got to go digital. Doesn't matter whether it's Xero, Sage or whatever. It's going digital. You just need to know whether they're debits and credits. So start off with our office equipment is an asset, which makes it a debit. Bank overdraft is a liability. As is a loan. But our inventory is an asset, it's ours, we sort of control it. We may not have paid for it, but it's ours and we control it. There's an extra row here, you are expected to know that that's going to be capital, because a sole trader's capital is the balance of everything he or she has. In this case he, because it's a male name. So if we use a spreadsheet, so some capital as we would expect on the credit side. And there we are, balanced. We've worked out our capital. Every time a sole trader does a transaction, the money goes up or down, depending on what the transaction is. Next part then. So always a question, always has been. This one, the original question didn't have the fact that it included VAT. I know AAT would put that one in, but there are some without VAT, so there are only 2 rows. We should of course do our debit entries first. Irrecoverable debts or bad debts expense, or irrecoverable debts expense account. VAT would be a debit, and it's of course our receivables ledger control account. Notice you've got the option there to click on receivables ledger. Very easy mistake to make. £960 including VAT. We're reducing the amount that our customers owe us, and these are our expenses. So the VAT divided by 6 of course, 160, and 800. That's not right, I've done a typo. 960 minus 160. And of course, debiting 960, crediting 960, and we're writing off a bad debt, the narrative or description. Payroll. Only a little payroll question, but actually quite an awkward one. So you have to understand the whole payroll. You have to interpret really what they want on this new version. Gross pay is an expense. It's part of the expenses. The expense is the employer's national insurance and the gross pay. So if they had a code for expense, it would be the 65350 plus the employer's 7353 and an employer's pension if it was there. But actually gross pay is that's just part of the expense. There we are. Employer's national insurance, that's the other part of the expense. Got the bit of debit. PAYE, well what have we done with PAYE? We've taken it off our employees and we owe it to HMRC. So this isn't essentially which way around it is in the control account, which is what I first initially read it as, but I worked out what they're doing. PAYE is just going to be the income tax. National insurance, again, we owe it to HMRC. However, it's now the 2 plus added together. It's the only bit of maths to do. And then our net wages will be our gross pay minus the deductions. So minus the income tax and minus the employee's national insurance, and can't do this on your paper but I can do it on here and show what you could do on a bit of paper or on your calculator. Of course those two should balance. Next task. Yep, next task. Watch out, obviously it's been turned from 10 tasks into 8. Some of them are quite long, they're several pages in a book. Journals to correct errors. So used to be the task 8, used to be the worst done task. Early results show that it is still the worst done task. So this is going to be the one you've got to work hardest on to gain all the marks, and it's 10 marks. Task is about using the journal to correct errors. Types of errors, you've got to learn the names. So this at least is the names, I haven't actually typed them in full, I've just done the short version. So credit purchase, not entered in purchases account, VAT or payables, in other words we've missed it out, which is an error of omission. This one of the two that according to the examiners students get the wrong way around, the principles and commission. This one, office stationery is an expense, office equipment is an asset. That's an error of principle. Principles are more important than commission. And of course it would be an error in terms of how you treat it in your accounts. This one then, 690 is 960, easy done. Especially on the computer where you only type it in once. Errors are easy. That one of the list of 5 has got to be an original entry. I've typed it in wrong. And this is the one to get confused with the principal. This actually is unusual because they always used to do the commission as customers or suppliers, but actually an error of commission is an expense account or an income account, just the wrong expense account in this case. It is the error of commission that gets confused with principal. So commission, same type of account, in this case expenses, could be same customers, same suppliers. Principal, different type of account, e.g. expense. An asset, it could be income and liability or something of that nature. Now this one, bearing in mind we've had those 4, pretty much guess which one, almost the first half sentence gives it away. Commission received is a credit entry. However, it's credited to the bank. It should be debited to the bank and debited to commission received. It's the wrong way around. It's reversed. Fairly routine little selection. And then questions that you just need to take a bit of time thinking about and trying to understand how they want the answers put in and what they want you to put in as the answer. I must admit, I looked at this one, hummed and hawed a few seconds. What do they actually mean? However, what we can do, of course, is get some marks just by putting the numbers in, if nothing else. What's happened? So a receipt from a customer totaled, but there's no remittance advice, so we forgot with customer, but obviously it's gone in the bank, or the assumption is it's showing in the bank, because we wouldn't leave it sitting on the side. In fact, it may have even come in electronically. So it's in a bank. We've got to put it in our accounts. What else do? We don't know which customer, but that won't actually cause a trial balance or anything, and we're actually talking about the main ledger here, not the receivables ledger. So actually what are we going to do? We're going to put it into our control account. That means it's going to be 5, 6, 8, 9 in our receivables. So that's what we didn't do. We didn't do it because we didn't know how to post it. But it will be sitting in our bank account for our bank statement, which means we probably put the balance in our suspense account, because that's what it means. So as well as helping our debits to equal our credits on a manual system or a corrupted computer system, a suspense account is frequently used to put something in when we don't know where it belongs. So we put it in, we credited our suspense account, and now on our computer we're moving it from our suspense accounts into our receivables ledger control account. And then the 570 is just an error of commission. It's been coded to the insurance expense account. Probably doesn't really matter. However, we should have debited rent. So no removing and posting correctly on this version. Just literally moving it from one to the other. So we're literally taking it out of insurance and putting it into rent. Occasionally some people would do a suspense account. You'd have a debit and a credit suspense of 570 to make the pairs. They'd remove it by debiting the suspense account and then post it by crediting the suspense when you debit the rent expense. But that's not what you're being asked for. This is the version you've got. Fill the boxes in that make sense. So, already mentioned, suspense account helps your debits equal your credits. We've got the account as a suspense account, and it will literally just be the difference and it's the credit side to make the credit side add up to the debit side. Not sure why that's not. What have I done? Well, I've done the numbers right. 2, that is 1. I missed a 1 off, and that's why I didn't fit in the box. Journal entries then, so what have we got? So this is what we're going to do. What your accountant might send you, do this on your system, or what you write down, because these are the errors you've solved, and you need to record them in the journal. We have got some suspenses. Obviously suspense accounts will be cleared. That's the whole purpose of the paper, effectively. Reconcile everything and clear the suspense account. And what we've been asked to do is to work out the new balance. So a debit and a debit add, credit and a credit add. The debit and a credit will reduce, credit and a debit will reduce. So a bank loan is a credit entry. And we are crediting it, so we're adding, so it's increased, and it's a credit in the trial balance. Commission received is also a credit in the trial balance. No adjustment will ever make it anything else. It can't be the same. Commission received is 9560, and yes, it is different because of the 216. I've made a typo there. I've corrected it on my answers. Is a debit. Oops. You know it's 3216, it balances that out. Look, it's a pair. Never mind. Discounts received then. Discounts received are also a credit entry. Another credit entries. So we start off with the 6758. And our discounts received is a credit, so we're adding it. There we are. There's a correct number. And then our heating and lighting is our only, in this little table, debit entry. So it's the other way around. So our 8567, and we've been asked to credit it, which means we're removing it. And there we are. That's task 6, the worst done task at the moment from the first few results we've seen through. A few colleges putting them together and talking about it. Now we're just going to balance off some accounts and complete a trial balance. This doesn't normally cause too many problems. We actually, 7 and 8 from initial results are done much better than the others. In some of this work is actually from the old transactions, the slightly easier unit. Read carefully though. Most of the ledger accounts have been closed off the balances. It's all March 7. It's all the end of March, and that's it. All we've got to do, despite my typo, I really thought I'd spotted all my typos. I'm not going to record a video for that. It's actually just adding them up. It's just straightforward. Only debit entries, so they're carried down. Bear in mind this is a carried down balance on the 31st. When we do the trial balance, it needs to go on the debit side. This, however, this is a little bit more interesting because at least we've got some pluses and minuses. Add up the big side, that's the debit side. Take off the little side. It for us like a spreadsheet should. Capital, we've got one debit and one credit entry. A bit baffled about this one because actually bank, that means the owner has taken some money out of the capital. Other people would record it as drawings. But it does the same thing, it reduces the owner's capital in the business and there's money out the bank. One last one, just the sales returns. It's just literally a straightforward. They're both on the debit side as you would expect in a sales returns account. And we've got our balance. So I think the original question asked a little bit more. It put the sales in the credits. Well, that hardly tests students because most students can work out therefore with a carry down there to put sales returns in the debits. I'm just literally going to fill it in. Sales returns, amount, purchases. We've got plant and machinery is an asset. Will be a debit up to our plant and machinery. Bank, we haven't been told otherwise, so we assume it's a debit entry, and our premises asset is a debit entry. So capital is credit entry. There's our capital balance. Suddenly had to switch round a bit, could get caught out there. and this is a liability because we owe money to our suppliers, and then we owed money from our customers, and our new balance is here. Obviously double check it balances. Note you have to use the equal sign and rather than try and type the numbers in, because that really would be asking for an error. Our last task then, so what seems to be done the best at the moment, so don't worry about this one too much, it's just journals and a trial balance. It's very much the same in just a different format, just a different way of asking the same question. So it's a little bit more computer based. This could be computer. We've got some items, we've got some debit and credit balances already, an initial list of balances. They're actually in here, so we've got our purchases, and then we've got some balances like the sales, and we've got an adjustment to make to it. We have to credit sales, sales are credits, we might as well just put it straight in, equals the original balance and credit and a credit. There we are, that's a new balance. Banks in there, receivables will be a debit balance. So we have a regional balance, and then it's another debit entry, so we're going to add, and then we've actually got them. So those are actually were both adds because we credited a credit balance and we debited a debit balance. Just obviously watch out, another one might have been the other way round. And of course hit balances, which means we've done the paper with 100%.